for me, I actually love the fact that I have worked across, and I think you're a far better strategic, brand manager, for want of a better term, if you've worked across sectors, because you can bring so many perspectives, So I started my career in FMCG, but then moved into education and then into manufacturing and, back into food. And have worked with many kind of smaller businesses as well, and each one of those pieces of experience I've brought something back to that next sector. So sometimes B2B really needed the creativity and the fast pace and the the kind of data driven approach that you would get in FMCG. So I actually think sometimes considering bringing people in with kind of wider experience can really help a business, just to bring kind of fresh ideas and perspective, but ultimately for me, the kind of, as long as you keep it strategic, the process of brand management is the same.
Yeah, it's one of those things you see in job ads quite a lot, isn't it? That you'll see must have 5 years FMCG experience, or 5 years B2B, 5 years engineering experience, whatever it might be. And I can't help thinking, probably because it's excluded me from applying some jobs that I would have quite liked sometimes, that it is missing a trick when you're doing that.
There's probably some great disciplines that you get in B2B, like really brilliant at lead generation, at thought leadership, that actually would transfer really great to FMCG. So I do think companies should think differently and think kind of more diversely, even if you think it's the same principle of a board. If a board was all kind of white middle-aged men,
which most of them still are,
unfortunately still, that's why I'm saying that, but the point of that is that how could they possibly have a real perspective on their consumer and their customer base? And I just think, likewise, if your brand teams have only got one-dimensional experience, so I just think whether you're a brand kind of a person starting off, get kind of wide experience, and it means then that when you if you decide to become a consultant later in life, and I sound like I'm literally dying later in life, so later in life,
in the autumn of
that's depressing me now thinking about that, but that you've got such a breadth of experience, that you can kind of work with multiple companies across different sectors, so that has stood me in good stead.